What's up guys, I'm David Perez, and I'm here to go through the best fit for each team in the 2021 NFL Draft. This isn't the top and easy ones like Trevor Lawrence to Jacksonville, but more the deeper guys that will go anywhere from round 1 to about 5. Oh, and also, this will be based on scheme fit, draft value and slots, and also previous draft tendencies for GMs who have been there for a good bit. Without anything else to say, let's hop into the video. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, Penn State tight end Pat Freiermuth. This makes too much sense. The Jags just hired Tyler Bowen, formerly of Penn State, to be their tight ends coach. Also, they are one of few teams of which it makes sense to take a tight end in the 20s or 30s because they have 2 picks in that range and a big need there. For the Jets, Creed Humphrey, center out of Oklahoma. I'm going to be honest, I think the Jets only passed on signing Corey Linsley in free agency because they knew that they had Creed Humphrey in the draft. My comparison for Creed is literally Linsley, and Mike LaFleur's offense, a player like that is key to thrive. Creed should be taken and plugged into the center role for years to come. For the Houston Texans, Indiana safety Jamar Johnson. If I'm being honest, this was easily the hardest one to do due to their simple schemes, draft capital, and new regime. So I chose Indiana safety Jamar Johnson purely because of what he'll be able to do in Lovie Smith's defense as a strong safety next to Justin Reed, and that'll play perfectly to his strengths. Also, he'll be there when Houston picks at 67. God. For the Atlanta Falcons, Oregon's safety Javon Holland. Atlanta will probably need a good man cover safety, and Holland fits there very well. He can play strong safety, free safety, or even slot corner, so having it in your system allows defensive coordinator Dan Pease to get creative. And Holland is desirable for a team that has quite literally no passable safeties on the entire roster. I don't want to put Sewell or Chase here because if I pick one, there would be cries for the other. So I'm going to pick Ohio State guard Wyatt Davis. The Bengals desperately need offensive line help, so the first round shouldn't prevent them from getting a Quentin Spain replacement and finding a nice scheme fit along the way. For the Philadelphia Eagles, cornerback J.C. Horn. This is a guy that can definitely handle Philadelphia and fits the scheme flawlessly. His zone coverage and physicality are top-notch, and assuming that former Colts defensive backs coach Jonathan Gannon runs what Indy did, Horn will fit perfectly into a good Eagles corner room. God, that feels weird to say. For the Detroit Lions, interior offensive lineman from Wisconsin Whitewater, Quinn Miners. Miners is most definitely a kneecap biter. He has a physical mentality and is best doing what Anthony Lynn likes in power blocking. Although Miners would move to guard, that's a big need for Detroit, and for a team that really lacks identity in their locker room, Miners would be a great character. For the Carolina Panthers, Clemson receiver Amari Rodgers. If the Panthers didn't have a consistent tendency to pass on Clemson players, this would make even more sense than it already does to make Amari Rodgers Curtis Samuel's replacement. With Samuel gone, Rodgers holds a nearly identical skill set, knows the system, and would allow the Panthers to move on flawlessly without even realizing that Samuel is gone. For the Denver Broncos, LSU defensive tackle Tyler Shelvin. Denver expects the emergence of Draymond Jones and already has Shelby Harris in-house, but they desperately need a nose tackle, which is where Shelvin comes in. He's a pure nose in a 3-4 scheme, like Michael Pierce, and he's probably going to go in round 3 and be a good but not great player for a while. Also, I mentioned Michael Pierce, and George Paton prioritized getting nose tackles with the Vikings, and I expect him to give one to Vic Fangio as well. For the Dallas Cowboys, interior defensive lineman Davion Nixon. Nixon feels like a Cowboy to me. Tristan Hill won't cut it as his play has been poor, so get Nixon to be a 3-tech rusher. His size isn't great, but Dan Quinn doesn't care, and on a defense that needs correction, and with a front office that really likes the Big Ten, Nixon to Dallas works well for both ends. For the New York Giants, Michigan linebacker Cameron McGrone. McGrone provides the hard-nosed Joe Judge mentality, the run-defending skill set required by defensive coordinator Patrick Graham, and the coverage ability that this linebacker core lacks all at the same time. He's a perfect Giant for 2021, and they should totally attack him in the mid-rounds. Well, I mean, not physically attack him, but you know what I mean. We're moving on. For the San Francisco 49ers, Ifeatu Melifonwu, corner out of Syracuse. With the recent addition of Alex Mack, this team was hard, but I settled on a corner that fits well here. Melifonwu succeeds best in press and in deep zone, which I'd imagine the Niners continue to run. Melifonwu is pro-ready, and the Niners are pro-needy, so this schematically works well for both sides. For the Los Angeles Chargers, Osa Odigizua, interior defensive lineman from UCLA. Osa is a perfect Aaron Donald type for Brandon Staley. He's a 5-technique defensive end on rundowns and a 3-tech on passing downs, so Osa can easily fit here and do what Jerry Tillery couldn't do, which is pass rush well. The Chargers need someone with Osa's skill set to round out the defensive line, so they may as well just take him, right? They'll probably overpay him when it works, but the Chargers have money anyway, so it's not like that will be an issue. Oh. For the Minnesota Vikings, Andre Sisco, safety from Syracuse. Nothing like the Vikings developing athletes for a year or two in the mid-rounds, and since Jalen Twyman wasn't exactly an athlete, I picked Sisco, who can definitely be the athlete with the tools to be a stud in purple and yellow for years to come. Only he needs a little technical refinement, and it's not like the Vikings have Mike Zimmer or anything. For the New England Patriots, linebacker Pete Werner from Ohio State. Talk about a Patriots pick here, Pete Werner's the guy. A super smart run-defending linebacker from a school that New England loves, and he tested off the charts. He fits everything that Bill likes and will hopefully replace Jawan Bentley, who struggled with New England. For the Arizona Cardinals, UNC running back Michael Carter. Carter is a fantastic scheme fit for Arizona. He was a change of pace back at college and would continue to be so with Arizona in a similarly styled air raid offense. He'll be the pass catcher that the Cardinals need unless their front office gets too arrogant and takes ETN at 16, but knowing Steve Keim, that really wouldn't surprise me. For the Las Vegas Raiders, Alabama center Landon Dickerson. Talk about a Raiders pick here, getting this personality in the locker room. All of Alabama's teammates speak very highly of Dickerson, and Dickerson is the high character and scheme fit that the Raiders desire, making him a perfect fit in the John Gruden locker room and also a quite good run blocker for the John Gruden offense. For the Miami Dolphins, edge defender Joseph Asai from Texas. The Dolphins have somewhat torn apart their edge room with Lawson and Van Noy gone, and they need a replacement. Osai provides the skills that they need at a value that Miami likes, so Osai to Miami, likely in the second round, is a nice value. For the Washington football team, wide receiver Nico Collins from Michigan. Washington really needs a big deep threat, and I really toyed with a couple other options before setting on Collins, but Collins is a great fit for that role. He's a great athlete and would probably start quite early for being a later pick, so this makes sense for Washington. The gaping hole next to Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin. For the Chicago Bears, Aaron Banks, offensive guard in Notre Dame. This team has a big tendency to take Notre Dame offensive linemen. If it weren't for having tackle Liam Eichenberg somewhere else, I'd have him here. However, Banks provides the stability at guard that new QB1 Andy Dalton needs. For the Indianapolis Colts, offensive tackle Liam Eichenberg from Notre Dame. I told you Eichenberg would be here, and here he is. Frank Reich was at the Notre Dame Pro Day, and I think he was looking at Eichenberg specifically. And as a Colts fan, I fully expect Ballard to trade back and select Eichenberg in like the 30s, and he's a seamless replacement to Anthony Costanzo and has the frame that Ballard likes with his tackles. For the Titans, Rashad Bateman, wide receiver from Minnesota. So, is there really a better way to replace Corey Davis than to get a more refined version? He's super good, could maybe fall to 22, and is really what this offense needs to look as close to their 2020 selves as possible. For the Seattle Seahawks, Levi Onwuzurike, interior defensive lineman from the University of Washington. The Seahawks need a true game changer on the D-line, and with the loss of Jaron Reed, Levi is the perfect replacement to make a real impact in the second round for the 12s. For a bonus, he's a local product for the Huskies and has drawn some Chris Jones comparisons. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, Oklahoma edge Ronnie Perkins. So my comparison for Ronnie Perkins is actually Bud Dupree, who they just lost, and that should probably tell you a lot. I like Alex Highsmith too. I mean, I had like a mid-third round grade on him, but Perkins is just a complete game changer who could almost make that defense improve even though it's cheaper. For the Los Angeles Rams, Ohio State interior offensive lineman Josh Myers. The Kansas City Chiefs have now signed Austin Blythe, so just get another zone center for cheap who can be serviceable and match your draft capital. This is good for the Rams, and probably also good for Myers as well, who would get to step in day one on a competitive team. For the Cleveland Browns, Miami edge defender Jalen Phillips. For a team that prioritizes size in their defenders, this is a perfect fit. Phillips would be hard to get at 26, but Andrew Berry has been a great GM, and with the way that he drafts for value and scheme, Phillips would be a home run pick here at number 26, and definitely no later. For the Baltimore Ravens, another edge player, Cam Sample from Tulane. Nothing like a Ravens third-round raw pass rusher from a small school, and who's better for that role than Cam Sample? Baltimore just lost Judon and Ngakoue, and he's a seamless replacement to eventually be like every other Ravens defender who just got paid, like Judon, Ngakoue, Zadarius Smith. There's such a long list. I mean, he fits amazingly here, and I would not be surprised for them to spend a day 2 pick on this guy and to work out. For the New Orleans Saints, Dyami Brown, UNC receiver. With the gunslinging quarterback at the helm in Jameis, he really does need a deep threat, and Dyami Brown fits that role to be with Jameis quite well. He's what they wanted in Emmanuel Sanders, but with better catch point ability, and Brown would be a perfect contrast to the short machine Michael Thomas. For the Green Bay Packers, Missouri linebacker Nick Bolton. Now that Mike Pettine's gone, the Packers will be putting more than one linebacker out on the field every play with Joe Woods. Now, the problem is here, they only have one starting linebacker on the roster, so Bolton would be nice to fill in there, as there's a nice floor player for a team that needs to win now. At least, they should think that they need to win now. I'm not sure what Gutekunst is doing, but it's whatever. This is my video, not his. For the Buffalo Bills, Georgia cornerback Eric Stokes. The Bills rely a lot on good cornerback play, and these corners need to both play man and zone, so who better than Eric Stokes? He's an amazing ball hawk, which Tre'Davious White really isn't, and he can prevent opposing quarterbacks from high percentage throws against Levi Wallace and Josh Norman. For the Kansas City Chiefs, Samuel Cosmi, offensive tackle from Texas. This is probably my favorite fit on the entire list. Yeah, it definitely is, and Cosmi is everything that KC needs at tackle. They prioritize tall, pass-protecting tackles that can move, and Texas's pro day shows a 98th percentile runner at 6'7", so take Cosmi at 31, and you won't even feel bad about purging your offensive tackles this offseason because Cosmi will fit great at left. And finally, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Super Bowl champions, Jason Owe, the edge rusher from Penn State. Other than a true pass catcher at running back, this Bucs roster is so loaded that nobody that they take will be an immediate starter anyway. So, if you're drafting for the future, you may as well take one of the most athletic edges to come out in my lifetime. He's a nice scheme fit and should be ready to take over for the 32-year-old JPP after his contract expires. So that's it. If you did enjoy, you can check out any of our other social medias in the description below. And with that being said, goodbye.